come to order. Please come to order. Good morning. Welcome to the Commissioner of St. Mary's County meeting this date, Tuesday, July 29th, 2025. I am Randy Guy, President of the Commissioners of St. Mary's County. I'd like to introduce the other commissioners. Sitting to my right, representing the 1st Commissioner District, which includes Ridge, Piney Point, St. George Island, Mr. Eric Colvin.
Good morning.
Representing the 2nd Commissioner District, which includes Leonardtown and Hollywood, Mr. Mike Hewitt.
Good morning.
Sitting to my left, representing the 3rd Commissioner District, which includes Charlotte Hall, 7th District, Golden Beach, and Mechanicsville, Mr. Mike Alderson Jr.
Good morning.
Representing the 4th Commissioner District, which includes Lexington Park, some of California, Great Mills, and some of Hollywood, Mr. Scott Ostra.
Good morning.
See, the next Commissioner Ostra at the end of the dais is David Weiskopf, our County Administrator.
Morning.
On my immediate right is Julie Birch, our Recorder for today. Sitting at the table to my right is our Communications Director, Ms. Jenna Guzman.
Good morning.
Our video media production team is behind the glass. Please turn your cell phones off or on vibrate. When you come to the presenter's table, please approach by coming down the center aisle. And remember, this meeting is being televised, so you need to speak clearly and directly into the microphone for recording purposes. Next, we have the invocation and pledge by Commissioner Alderson. Please stand.
Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together today. Please guide this meeting with wisdom and thoughts of our county citizens that we serve. We thank you for your blessings upon us and everyone in this county, and we pray for a good meeting outcome. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Alderson. Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We actually have two motions here. The one is for the minutes. So for the minutes, first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
We
And
should read the
disappro-
motion, Commissioner President.
Pardon?
We should read the motion, it would seem.
Well, the second one is
It's in two separate motions.
two separate motions. Okay, second one.
I move to approve the appeal letter for Evergreen at Cedar Lane.
Second.
I have a first and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any disapproval? Ayes have it. Thank you. Next, we have some accommodations to give out today. First one is a volunteer recognition for Henry Broderson.
Broderson.
Broderson?
Thanks for giving me. Oh, come on up, yeah, you got it. Hey, nice to see you. Yes, yeah. Hold on, you're next to your husband.
Oh, okay.
That's very important. Hold on, put me in the. Yeah, right. Oh, no, no. You have to be next to your husband. Let's
We
move
might
down a
have
little
you
bit.
move down on this side if you don't mind. No problem at all. Can we squeeze? Perfect.
Minister said 62 years ago. I saw that, yeah. They said, the minister said, 62 years ago, let nobody come between them.
And then ladies, if I could just have you scoot in a little. Very good. Beautiful, thank you.
You know, every once in a while you get the honor of bringing recognition to somebody who's been very special and very special in your life. And Hank Broderson, he's a fellow maniac, I shouldn't say it that way, born in Maine. Went to, well, you went to Maine. Yeah. We have a connection through Maine. But he was a customer of Hewitt's for years and years. And great friend, great tuba player, big tuba player. But he's somebody who's given a lot to his community. We've had many mutual friends. Some of them have passed, but Lord knows we're still here, and thank goodness. Anyway, Hank, I know you're Henry, but Hank. Commendation presentation. The Commissioners of St. Mary's County officially commend Henry Hank Broderson for your 24 years of outstanding, praiseworthy, and dedicated service as a volunteer with the Home Delivered Meals Program. Through your diligent work ethic, you have rightfully earned the community's gratitude, respect, and admiration. Best wishes for your future endeavors, and may we ask God's blessings upon you. This date, 2029, June, no, that's July. I got a typo here. Hopefully it's not on yours. July 29th, 2025. Signed, the Commissioner of St. Mary's County. A few words.
Well, I don't know what to say. It's an honor, but it's something I never expected. I got into delivering meals just purely by accident. Somebody came up to me one day and I said, "Would you take it over? You know, the scheduling of the Valley Lee Piney Point route." And I did that, and it just kept going. But it's gotten to the point now where it's time for somebody younger to take over. It really came home to me about a year ago, when I picked up the meals at the Garvey Center here, and there was a name and an address that was familiar. The last name was familiar, and I thought the address on Indian Bridge Road was familiar. I went, delivered the meal there, got to talking to the person who accepted the meal, and I was right. I had delivered meals there before to his father. So I'm delivering second generation. That's when I started thinking maybe it's time. It got to be a little bit of an effort. Some of the stairways got a little bit challenging, and it finally dawned on me that in a lot of cases it took me longer to get to the front door than it took the recipient of the meals. So I'm turning it over, but it's been a real joy to be able to give back a little bit for what I've been blessed with all my life. Thank you all.
God bless you, Hank. I guess we ought to let the Commission on Aging speak.
Good morning. I'm Lori Jennings Harris, the Director of the Department of Aging and Human Services. And Hank was here when I started in 2006, and he was one of the first people I met. He greeted me very warmly. We shared some stories about the military, the Army, paratroopers, and the like. He has been very devoted and committed to his drive to serve people. It's more than just delivering food to individuals in need. It's also about spending time with them, giving them someone to talk to in the course of their day. And Hank has been instrumental in the success of our meals program. And so thank you so much for 24 years of your life.
Good morning. My name is Danielle Manalanson. I'm the coordinator for the Home Delivered Meals Program. As Lori said, Hank was here before I got here, and he's been beyond instrumental in making this program successful and making it run smoothly. He schedules an entire route for me, which is lovely. I would say that I would miss Hank, but I'll still get to see him all the time at the Garvey Center. So I do have that pleasure that I'll get to see him at least on a weekly basis, as long as he keeps coming in with his jokes for me. He has a wonderful joke every week and always a story as well. So I always look forward to seeing him for that, seeing that waving hand at the end of the hallway, looking for me. So thank you, Hank, and thank you for allowing him.
Good morning. I'm Brandy Tully, Deputy Director with the department. And like others have said, Hank was there before I was there. And Hank has also helped to train several home delivered meals coordinators. So he brings his experience and expertise to many people within our department. And we will miss you, Hank, and thank you so much for your
And I'm Candace Nelson, the Division Manager for Senior Center Operations and the Nutrition Program. And like they've all said, Hank was here before I was. But And we will miss you, Hank. And thank you so much for all you've done. And I know the centers will also, the kitchen staff are going to miss seeing you as well, pick up the meals and your daily jokes and stories as well. So thanks again for everything.
Well, you didn't get to say.
I don't have anything to say.
Oh, you do.
Usually, okay, sometimes I do. Actually, Hank has been doing this under the auspices of our church, St. George's Episcopal Church, and it was one of our parishioners who's in the audience, Sarah Fitzgerald, was doing it even before Hank was. And she turned it over to him, and he's been running with it. And she is still delivering Miss Sarah Fitzgerald to stand up and take a bow. Right, the lady in the purple shirt back there. So it's an honor. So it's been our joy. We have been members of this community for 50 some odd years now. We came back from Japan in 1972 and we planted ourselves here. So it is a joy to be a part of this community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Hank.
Next part of our program, we have retirement for Mr. Chris Castellanos, who is unfortunately leaving us. I don't know whether I should say this is a sad part or a good part, because myself, Chris has been outstanding as far as his job here and helping the county to direct itself and develop areas for our ongoing, you might say, business activities, everything you want to think of, he's been a part of. And especially at the airport center here, he really developed it quite a bit. And starting the Aero Park and everything else, he got heavily involved in our various produce stands and things like that. Everything you can think of, he put his hands in there and worked hard at it. And I'm going to miss him. I was hoping he'd stay at least another year and 4 months, but he decided no. I just talked to him a few minutes ago. I thought if he needed more time to vacation, I'll give it to him. But he said he's got enough time already. I said, okay, well, I suppose the time has come. And Chris has decided to hang it up. And so the Commissioner of St. Mary's County officially commend Chris Castellanos for your 10 years of outstanding, praiseworthy, and dedicated service with St. Mary's County government. Through your diligence, dedication, and relentless pursuit of excellence, you have rightfully earned the community's gratitude, respect, and admiration. We hereby express our sincere congratulations on the occasion of your retirement, extend best wishes for your future endeavors, and ask God's blessing upon you. This date, July 29, 2025, signed by all the commissioners.
So I just want to congratulate you, Chris, on your retirement and economic development. And under your leadership, it's been so incredible for our county because we need people who can keep the big picture in mind and keep us focused on that when we get bogged down in the day-to-day stuff. And it's been phenomenal. Thank you for all that you've done. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, no big speech. Just want to thank the commissioners for their support. It's been great for 10 years. 10 years here, but this is actually my 40th year in local government, so it's been a long time. So I'm ready to move on. Maybe I'll deliver meals or something. In there's an opening right here. There's an opening. Hank was here before I was here. Just want to thank my staff, too. We have a phenomenal staff, great team. It's going to carry things on. And thank the county again. Thank the commissioners. Great support. And we've really moved the needle in economic development, and that's with everybody's help. So just thank you for everything. And thank my wife. thanks to Heidi for putting up with all this stuff and all the commissioners calling me after hours. But that's it.
Yeah, but won't say anything? Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
What's that?
Photo with Heidi and without Heidi.
Okay, okay. Okay, next we go on to the Department of Land Use and Growth Management request for public hearing and authorization to submit Critical Area Commission text 25-0112 amendment to allow use type 28 in RCA overlay. You have to explain what all that means to the people.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Jessica Andritz, Director of Land Use and Growth Management. Wonderful to see all of you this morning. I will keep it relatively brief. I'm sure that you've had a chance to look at the memorandum that was prepared along with the drafted ordinance being proposed. So we were approached a few months ago by Chris Longmore on behalf of his client, the Vestry of All Saints Church down in Avenue, and I see that Mr. Longmore is in the audience today. And if Chris, if you'd like to come up and say, we're together. If you'd like to come up and say a few words on behalf of the application, would certainly yield the floor to him. But what the church is looking to do is to establish a Head Start program to provide some daycare uses, kind of tucked away in certain areas of the county where we know childcare can certainly be a burden to families with young children. We know that Head Start programs have a really great reputation for helping to jettison our little people on to do great things. Whether it's in public school, private school, but it just really gives them the social skills and some of the early learning that needs to go on for our young families to continue to live here and be successful here in St. Mary's County. I could certainly tell you a little bit more about the property, but I don't want to focus too much on the property because what is before you today as a request for a public hearing and also consensus for us to send the application up to the Critical Area Commission so that it can be reviewed formally by their staff. I don't want to focus on the location in particular because a zoning text amendment, should it be approved by you, would apply throughout the county. Let me be very clear, it is a limited text amendment, and when we present it to the state, we actually won't use the term amendment. That is strategic. We view it internally as a refinement, something that is not going to open the floodgates, if you will, but is quite limited in nature. So what we're doing is we are seeking approval for us to send the application up that would allow this particular use type, it's use type 28, daycare, non-medical, of course, to be a permitted use in the RCA, or the Resource Conservation Area Overlay District. And something that is very important to note here is that doesn't mean that daycares are going to start, popping up everywhere in the county and certainly in the critical area. That's not what this is about. It's about using existing space that is already there, repurposing it sometimes, or adding it as a complementary, you could call it accessory, use within an existing structure. So again, we're not going to see, kinder cares popping up everywhere. That is not the intention here, but it's to use existing structures. So I am certainly here to answer any questions that you may have. As I mentioned, Chris Longmore is here, and our ever faithful Deputy County Attorney John Sterling Hauser is also behind me and to my right. And I think he's just chomping at the bit to answer questions, should you have any.
Now tell me, RCA's, rural conservation district, rural conservation areas, they exist all over the county, and they're typically obviously around the waterways. How are they established? Does the Critical Area Commission, does the State Board of Planning, who actually establishes an RCA?
Well, so state law, a lot of this program is found in state law, and then of course through COMAR, as it relates to the protection of natural resources. But the county does have its own critical area program, as it was required to have that by the state. From time to time, the program needs to be updated, and a couple items down, you'll hear a plan for that as far as it relates to funding. But it's something that is born out of state law.
Well, my question leads to, how often do we see these types of requests, and how often are they approved? Do you have experience with that?
Here in this county, I do not. I believe this is the first time that a request of this nature has been made, but there are other jurisdictions all over the state that are probably thinking about how to repurpose existing buildings within the critical area, so that we're not impacting natural resources over and above what would most reasonable folks would say is enough. And that's one of the things that we really like about this application, and why we want to bring it forward is because it's using existing space more thoughtfully to provide a service and to address a need that is so sorely felt.
Is that space a non-conforming use now? Is it allowed to do whatever
It
it's
is
doing?
a legal non-conforming use as a church, and it would, this particular use type would be permitted should the text amendment get approved.
Okay.
So thank you for bringing this forward to us. I think reuse of existing facilities, that's something that we have had some familiarity with in the past and made some changes. Specifically, I think we did something with non-adjacent septic and sewer, and making that legal in order to be able to reuse these facilities in the critical areas. And I think this is a great thing. I'm excited for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
This addresses a huge need in the 7th District. I appreciate the fact that we're using existing structures and we're not adding anything new. And I can't wait to see this move on through. Yeah.
One question, will this result in having to update the building codes for the property that's proposed to be used?
Not that I'm aware of. If it does, certainly we can look into that, but I'm not aware that any changes would need to be made.
I move to authorize the Department of Land Use and Growth Management to conduct a morning public hearing on August 26, 2025, at a time to be determined, to consider text 25-0112, a request to amend the county's comprehensive zoning ordinance by allowing use type 28 in the Resource Conservation Area Critical Area Overlay.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay,
Motion
second.
two.
Motion 2, I move to authorize the Department of Land Use and Growth Management to submit the proposed ordinance to the Critical Area Commission for its review and approval.
Second.
Discussion, real quick.
Discussion.
What's the timeline for Critical Area Commission to look at something like this?
Going to take a little peek at
it's
at our
probably-
staff report. Yeah, but let me go over it very quickly for those that don't have that in front of them. So we would want to submit that up to the Critical Area Commission as quickly as we could. But they would, bear with me, convene and review the application, provide some comments back on September 19th. And then it would go to the full Critical Area Commission, hopefully for a favorable vote on October 1st, excuse me.
Okay, as I'd served 9 years on that Critical Area Commission, but they do a lot of what they call local courtesy there. If it's something going on, we need to make sure our representative for the county, Dan Burris, the mayor of Leonardtown, is up to speed on this, because he will probably be the person they ask questions to, since it's his district. So
Indeed.
let's make sure we bring him into the picture.
Absolutely. And assuming that there is the consensus on this one, we will reach out to him forthwith.
Good. Okay, any other?
I was going to say, I know over the past several years, All Saints has really done a really good job of after Don Kropp finished doing the remodel in the church and everything, and doing a fine job of reestablishing.
He did a beautiful job.
And look forward to this opening here.
Okay, I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
See you in a bit. Thank you.
Okay, next we go right into county administrator time.
Thank you, Commissioner President Guy. And as always, we'll start with the draft agendas for August 19th and 26th, as there are no meetings August 5th and August 12th. On August 19th, you'll start at your normal time and place, followed by 3 proclamations, one for Aviation Day, another for Child Support Awareness Month, and one for National Black Business Month, followed by County Administrator, then Commissioner time, closed session for legal strategy, and then adjourn. And on August 26th, you'll start at your normal time and place, followed by 2 proclamations, one for Women's Equality Day, and the other is for the Forget Me Not Month, followed by County Administrator, Commissioner's time, adjourn, and then have a groundbreaking ceremony for the St. Clements Island Museum on site at 2 p.m. Bless you. And the first for today is the Board of Education budget amendments to return existing St. Mary's County Public School CIP funds to the Finn Capital Reserve and request use of those funds for projects in fiscal year 2026. Kim Howe presenting, and I see Miss Tammy McCourt in the audience. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
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 So we have started the process of the FY27 CIP process. And as part of that, if you go to the first slide, there's a lot of collaboration that happens in the Division of Supporting Services between maintenance, operations, design and construction, and capital planning on what our needs are. And as you know, we have a lot of buildings that were built in the 1990s, and those are now still all coming due. And we've had these discussions in the past about what those needs are. We have a new director of maintenance, Mr. Joe Wysakinski. So he's really been doing a deep dive into our critical infrastructure needs. What does it take to ensure we have continuity of service? So as a result of that, we evaluated our HVACs, our roof, and water in and water out. Those are the mission critical items that need to happen at a school to ensure that it opens every morning and functions as it's supposed to. So based on several months of work, we looked at everything. We looked at every school and every component that we could. And based on those findings, we identified $745 million in project scope studies and designs for some smaller projects that we need to do. And I'll go through those projects in a minute. We did present the list to the Board of Education, and they approved it to come here to you for your consideration on July 16th, 2025. When we looked at this, we knew we needed to come with solutions. So what we have for you today is a budget amendment utilizing projects that we have completed or deferred to future years due to more pressing needs. If you go to the next slide. So the new projects that are to be undertaken, and these are all design and scope studies or some small construction of a chiller. We really need to investigate these farther to understand the long-term ramifications of what the projects need and how they'll be integrated into the CIP. We are always cognizant of the 6-year CIP that we submit. And when we make these changes, we do our very best to find, as we have in this, the funding to do that, and then how they're going to be integrated into the future CIP as we determine what the needs of these projects are. The list of projects.
Now, before you move on, what struck me when I looked at this is how round your numbers are, 100,000, 50,000, 50,000, 120. The only one that has any specificity is that Esperanza Chiller at 809, 745, 809,000. Why are those numbers so round? Are these just like estimates of what this could cost?
So at this point, we are currently doing it, and I can give you an example. The Hollywood well tank, we estimated $50,000 for the design, and it came in right around $48,000 is the quotes that we have.
So these are just rounding type of things?
Yes, at this point, we are trying to get the projects established so that we can get them under contract with our design teams or our consultants that we need
I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I just thought it was interesting that everything came in at a nice 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. It seems like it's a little bigger picture than a deep dive that you referred to.
So what these projects will be, with the assistance of the commissioners, we have established, as you do, the critical and programmatic projects within our CIP. The beauty of that is, and these will be going all into the critical line item. The beauty of it is if one study comes in at 100,000, one comes in at 48, and then another one comes in at 102, and we only estimated that, we can shift within. And we do a coordination.
I'm
of all
not opposed to it. It just struck me as those nice round numbers, except for the Esperanza Chiller, which you seem to know how much that's going to cost.
We are more firm with the chiller at Esperanza based
All right,
on
thank you.
current work that we're doing. But the projects that we do have, the Benjamin Banneker Early Childhood Center, the lift station, that is where all of our septic from all of the Leonardtown, or the Banneker and Division of Supporting Services goes to, and that lift station does need to be replaced, but we need to do some design work on that to figure out what that's going to entail, and it's in perpetuity for what we need to do. The Hollywood Elementary School well tank replacement, Chopticon High School's well house controls, the Chopticon High School sewage site upgrade, that is the UV chamber, and unfortunately, they no longer make those lamps, so we need to look at how we're going to retrofit that with a new UV chamber. Ridge Elementary School's bladder tank replacement, well vault modification, and tank abandonment. The Esperanza Middle School chiller. As you're aware, we do have a need to do HVAC at Esperanza, so this, and we've been doing this consistently, the chillers, life expectancy is shorter than the remainder of the HVAC, so we're replacing chillers to get longer service out of our systems while we wait for the full HVAC replacement. And then we have around 8 kitchen hoods repairs that we need to do to bring them into compliance. So we have identified the funds. The budget transfer that you have before us is for projects that are complete or have been deferred out of the CIP and will integrate later to do these new projects in the total of $1,384,745. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay, I have a couple for you. We've been getting continual outreach from people who live on Lewis Creek about the silting in of Lewis Creek. There's 3 schools that impact that creek. Green Holly, Esperanza Middle, and Town Creek Elementary.
Yes.
I remember, it was a while back, could have been 10 years if not longer. I know you were around, I was around. When Esperanza had a big problem with a big erosion of their fields there. And obviously if that erosion went anywhere, it probably went to that creek. Now this particular individual down there is requesting that the county dredge the creek because of what we haven't done with the MS4, the separate storm sewer requirement required by the state. Now, are you doing anything, is the school system doing anything with their retention of what runs off of their parking lots, off of their fields, that eventually gets down to this creek?
Yeah, so we did reach back out. We received that request. We did reach out and respond to Mr. Weiskopf with a lot of detailed information about our projects. We did have a erosion issue at Esperanza Middle School as a result of a storm. That was done in accordance with Maryland Department of the Environment. And there was a study and a delineation report done, and work was done to correct that. And as the report stated, we put that back into a better condition than it was previously done. In terms of the other 3 schools, they're all in compliance with the stormwater management requirements that were in place at the time of construction. When and if we were to do anything to those projects, we would then, of course, need to meet it. However, since those projects were completed at Esperanza, we have not added any new impervious surface or changed anything at those 3 schools. What we did share with Mr. Weiskopf is that if there was interest in doing a county-wide project and we could participate in that in some way, we would be willing to entertain what those options would be if the county wanted to do a project on our sites.
I just think it's important that people want to say, hey, you're derelict of duty by not controlling the stormwater runoff. And it's run off into our creek, and it's made our creek unusable to some extent.
Right. So
And
they are all,
said,
they're all in compliance at the time of construction. They're in compliance with
I
the
get it.
stormwater.
I get it. We complied at the time, I get it. The key gets to be is going forward. If this needs to have some type of a public meeting, it would be, I would like to see you guys there, at this type of thing. Because Delegate Todd Morgan is pushing the idea that we do some kind of a public relations or some type of a public outreach to the people who were impacted down that Esperanza, Town Creek area to determine what can we do, where did it come from, what can we do to fix it. So information like yours would be helpful.
Yes, and we're gladly partner with the county in any way that we can help.
All right, thank you.
A question for you. In going through this, and I was looking through this. You've done a fairly deep dive, and you've talked about pretty much all the systems throughout the schools. The only thing I didn't notice was, have you looked at the electrical systems throughout the schools? Are those all in good shape, or has there been any study done on those?
So at this point, that's really not the issue. What really is the aging systems in terms of water in and water out. Those are ones that, typically when we do a larger project like an HVAC, then they'll be looked at. But independently, there are issues that are stemming that were the most crucial. Of course, what we want is we want the lights on, we want the heat and the cooling at appropriate times, we want a dry roof, and we want water in and out. So that was really the focus.
Okay, so the current electrical systems are able to handle
Yes.
the new equipment and everything?
Yes. And they are addressed, like I said, again, during an HVAC. We typically do electrical upgrades. We look at switch gears, all of those type of things as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions, anybody?
I move to approve and authorize the Commissioner President to execute the budget amendments reducing PS 1805, PS 2601, PS 2602, and PS 1403, and increase various capital projects in the total amount of $1,384,745 as presented by staff.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Howe. Next up, from the Department of Land Use and Growth Management, is the status update on St. Mary's 2050, the new comprehensive plan. Ms. Jessica Andritz, Director, presenting, along with Ms. Leanne King.
Good morning
Player on.
again. If you could pull your mic. Hi. Good morning again, Commissioners. As Mr. Weiskopf said, I'm Jessica Andritz, Director of Land Use and Growth Management, and I am pleased to have Leanne King from Clarion Associates sitting to my right. She did update the Planning Commission members last evening on the outreach that we did earlier this summer. She is here to share some of the information that was gleaned, and also will give you a little preview of perhaps what's to come. I'm going to actually scooch over so that you can kind of take the mic, and I'm here to answer any questions that for some reason she wouldn't be able to answer.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you very much for having us. And I guess, will I tell you when, next slide? Okay, great, perfect. Thank you for allowing us some time to brief you on this important endeavor. This is the update to the county's comprehensive plan. It's a long-range policy document that guides decision-making with respect to land use in the county as well as other community endeavors. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to provide you with an overview of the timeline and where we are in the timeline in terms of taking into account all of the different activities that we've been doing. Focus on the community engagement window number 2, which was conducted during the spring and summer of this year. A quick update on the trends and projections report, which is the technical analysis component of this process. And then a quick overview of the vision themes, which have been drafted for the plan. Go to the next slide. Okay, so here's our project timeline. So we kicked off the project last fall. So we're coming up here pretty quickly on a year into the project, and we've completed the launch of the project, the first round of community engagement, which was conducted early this year in January. In establishing the vision and goals, and now we're fully in the third phase, develop the policies and strategies. So like I said, we just completed the community engagement window number 2, the second round of engagement within the community, and I'll be sharing the findings from that activity. So the kind of next steps in the process are once we kind of gather all the information from the current plan and consider the information from the community engagement that we received in the first 2 rounds of engagement, we will begin drafting the plan. That plan will be taken out, what we call the public review draft will be shared as part of community engagement window number 3. We call that the plan unveil. That will give the community an opportunity, as well as commissioners and planning commission, an opportunity to provide comment and make revisions to that plan before we take it into the final phase, which is plan adoption, where we have the formal public hearing process, which would happen later this year, early into next year during the winter months. Next slide. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview of the community engagement window number 2. Again, this is a second round of engagement that we've conducted. The first round of engagement was really trying to make sure that we understood what was on the minds of residents with respect to long-range planning and the types of issues that people wanted to see addressed in the comprehensive plan. This second round of engagement drilled down a little bit further about some of the questions that we specifically wanted to learn more about in terms of interests and willingness about policy direction from residents. We did try to make the balance kind of getting meaningful, good information we could use to help draft the plan, but also making it a manageable size survey. So we had a targeted number of questions. There were 3 short surveys that were packaged as one survey that were provided at 15 in-person community engagement opportunities. We call them public intercept events. So think about festivals, farmers markets, those libraries, those types of things where people are coming for another purpose. And the Lugum team would say, hi, are you interested in the future of the county, and get them involved and give the survey opportunity to them. So those engagement opportunities took place May 16th through June 30th. There was also the same set of questions and activities were also made available through the county's website online for folks, and there were multiple ways that was pushed out to the community. Most of the folks that participated in the in-person did the paper surveys that were available. There was also a kiosk at each of these events so that people could do it online. There was a QR code if they wanted to do it on their phone. So lots of opportunities and different choices about how people might support this effort and provide their survey responses. Next slide. So in terms of the results of the survey, I mentioned there were 3 short surveys packaged as one. I'm going to walk through each of the questions in those so that you can get a flavor. For most of these questions, they were multiple choice, but they were allowed the opportunity to select more than one response. So the numbers do not add up to 100%. That's by design because we wanted the flexibility for people to choose what those responses that they wanted to. So this first question the first survey, a segment of the survey is called Guarding Our Growth Through 2050. So that's more focused on kind of development activities within the county. We asked which areas of St. Mary's County that participants support mixed-use development. That was something that we heard some interest in the first round of engagement. But we wanted to know more specifically where people would be willing and interested in seeing that. As you can see from the slide here, Lexington Park, Leonardtown, California, we're kind of at the top of the list, which makes sense. Those are the growth areas, the development districts, which support more intensive development today.
And just for the people listening, can you define kind of a little bit more what mixed use is specifically?
Sure, happy to do that. So mixed use development is typically a development that will include a commercial component and a residential component. So if you think about having a retail kind of on either first floor and then apartments above it, sometimes it can be, and that's what we call vertical mixed use. Sometimes we have horizontal mixed use, which is a more suburban style mixed use development where it's the same project on the same property. You might have them separated, but they're kind of commingled and walkable between each other. Thanks. Slightly less than a third said that they didn't support this type of development in any location, so that's notable. And then you can see there kind of fewer support within Charlotte, Hall, Hollywood, Mechanicsville, and Callaway for that type of development. Slide. So the second, and these first couple of questions are fairly similar in their structure. So the second question focused on identifying the areas of St. Mary's County in which participants support smaller starter homes and townhouses. We heard in the first round of engagement that we want to make sure that kind of new families, young professionals, et cetera, have housing opportunities. So where would it be appropriate to have those types of housing available? And as you can see here, Lexington Park, there's a little bit more support for starter homes and townhouses in more locations than we saw for the mixed use on the last slide. Lexington Park, Hollywood, California, all kind of 40% or above. Mechanicsville, Charlotte Hall, 38%, and Callaway had 35%, with areas nearby Leonardtown shortly behind. Don't support this type of development was the last selected on the list, so a little less than a quarter of people selected that one. Okay, next slide. So the last question in this lineup focused on multifamily housing. So thinking about apartments or condominiums where you have kind of stacked housing outside of a mixed use environment. So it's just kind of an apartment use. And the areas that were supported by the respondents were Lexington Park again at the top, California behind. This is similar to the mixed use response. Don't support this type of development was a little more than a third of respondents. And then following, we have Leonardtown areas just outside the town in the county's jurisdiction, followed by Charlotte Hall, Hollywood, Mechanicsville, and Callaway. So this is helpful for us in thinking about kind of where these types of uses might be appropriate moving forward. Next slide. We also asked about redevelopment. That's something that we heard a lot about, as well as how can we make kind of good use of our existing developed areas that are aging and maybe in need of some reinvestment. One thing that we know about most redevelopment situations is that to make it economically feasible, typically the owner, the developer of that property has to build it at a more intensive level to make the investment in the redevelopment feasible. So we wanted to clarify that for people and make sure that they understood that and were in support of redevelopment that's more intensive than what exists there today. And as you can see, 46% of respondents said yes, we're in support of that. 35% said maybe I need to know more. Obviously, there's a lot of detail in any redevelopment project, so I can understand people wanting to kind of look at it on a case-by-case basis possibly, or just need to know kind of more information about it. And then 19% said flat out no. So there seems to be some pretty good support that yes, we understand redevelopment will require some level of more intensive development to be economically feasible. Second sub-survey is the environmental and agricultural resources section. First question here asked about activities that participants support to protect environmentally sensitive land. So you can see pretty strong support for across the board for the different actions, the three that were provided. The first one is investing in natural stormwater management. The second listed there was to purchase land to protect shoreline areas. and then the third for purchasing conservation easements. 17% said new public actions with regard to protecting environmentally sensitive lands are not needed. So it seems to be pretty strong support among community members, which matches up with what we heard in the first round of engagement. So second question asked about support for the county securing land for public water access. So we heard in the first round that people want more access to public water. And so we asked the follow-up question, do you support the county securing land for that purpose? 54% said yes. A third said maybe, I need to know more. Obviously, whenever you're talking about a potential investment or some other type of situation, people want to know the specifics, so that's understandable. 13% said no. And I believe we have one more question in this survey. Yes. So support for new agricultural policies. When we listed several different options for people to pick from, and several of them received very strong support. The first being expand existing farm-to-school purchasing programs. Secondly, supporting agritourism opportunities such as farm stays, events, roadside stands. The third, you can see there around a little more than half of the folks responding said that they supported requiring construction of wider road shoulders to support farming vehicles. And then below that, you see support the development of new agricultural support uses such as small-scale meat processing and produce packing hubs, and then lowering speed limits on frequently used rural roads where farm equipment's used got kind of a slightly lower support, and a little over a third. 9% were not sure, and 6% said new policies are not needed. So it seems like there is support for having new policies to support agricultural uses. And then our final subsection of the survey looked at serving our community. So we heard a lot in the first round of engagement about transit use. So we asked folks what their top priorities were for transit service. And as you can see here, the top two were really focused on providing service within the county. The first was improving existing bus routes, potentially adding more frequent service. The second was to add new bus routes to unserved areas. And then third, with only a little more than a third of folks responding affirmatively, was to add routes outside of the county to connect to other regional destinations such as the DC area. And about 20% said they didn't support expanding public transit. Question 2 looked at areas of St. Mary's County in which participants support developing new or enhanced bike and pedestrian trails. This is, again, something that we heard a lot about in the first round of engagement. And as you can see from the slide here, there was kind of a good mix of people wanting to see those types of facilities throughout the county. So that we did, I remember specifically having some conversations with some rural residents. I think it's important to note that the fourth, 20% support for rural areas of the county generally is noteworthy because it's not just in the kind of urban, suburban areas where this kind of connectivity is suggested, but also within rural areas where people want to be able to kind of bike on rural roads, et cetera. Next slide. And I believe this is our third and final question. There might be one more. So this one looked at support for services and programs that assist the county's aging population. So you can see here strong support for aging in place services that allow residents to stay in their homes, healthcare services, senior housing, and transportation services, and slightly less support for recreational activities and programming. 20% said maybe some other type of service is what is needed for aging residents of the community. There's one more question. So the first round of engagement, we asked for people to kind of rank in priority order the types of government services that they think are most important to be investing in. And there was kind of an other category. And so we went back and asked on the other category within that, what would people like to see kind of prioritized in terms of investment? So those priorities, as responded to, were community sports and recreational facilities were at the top, followed by affordable housing. Actually, they have the same percentage, 43% found those to be very important. And then a little more than a quarter services for aging population, public transportation, and then libraries below that. Next slide.
Can you...
Yeah. You can go back to the last
Going
slide.
back to the question on the aging population, which is important to make sure that our seniors have activities and things to do.
Do you mind going back one more slide? Thanks.
Was there a question about more things for youth and young adults to do within our community? Because it's one of the things that we hear a lot from the 20-somethings in our community, that there's really just not a whole lot for them to do.
Youth activities, yeah, family-oriented activities. We did not have a specific question in this survey. We did hear a lot about that, a fair amount about that in the first round of engagement, and have ideas about what those potential activities might be. We wanted to ask this question specifically to the aging population to understand the types of needs that they might have that may not have been totally clear in that first round of engagement.
Are both youth and aging going to be addressed in the final draft of the actual comprehensive plan?
Correct. So one of the important work products of this process is what we call the Trends and Projections report. And you can see the table of contents here. The report has been finalized. This is the technical analysis that is the kind of foundational piece to this plan that really helps us as we're working through policy drafting to understand what are the numbers telling us with respect to different governance topics and land use planning issues. So this is the table of contents for that report. Our community includes a lot of information about the people of St. Mary's County, households in the county, specific demographic information with respect to age. It also talks, we also have a section on environment and natural resources, so there's a lot of information there. Agricultural lands, environmental lands, and the different programs that are in place today to protect those. Land use and built environment focuses on existing land use, zoning, and the kind of what we call future land use designations and the growth areas. So kind of setting up the current policy today and how much of the lands within the county fit within each of those categories. Infrastructure, facilities, and services, as it sounds, focuses on kind of the key infrastructure pieces, water and sewer, and other facilities and services that are in operation in the county that support development and growth. And then transportation that focuses on the road network as well as bike and pedestrian facilities within the county. So that's a really important technical document. It will shortly be up on the county's website. There's a St. Mary's 2050 webpage that hosts all of the work products for the process, and this will be located there.
So we'll be able to get a copy of this report?
Yep.
And actually, Commissioner, if you go to the Comprehensive Plan Project website, one of the links there is resources, and it'll be located, if it's not already there today, it'll be located second from the top, and it will say Trends and Projections Report, and you'll be able to click on the links similar to what is being shown in the PowerPoint presentation. That'll bring an interested person right to topics that they're particularly looking for more information on.
Good, thank you.
And there's a lot of data in this document, so we didn't want to bog you down with data today, but I did want to share one important one, which is looking to the future, because this is a long-range comprehensive plan thinking about the next 25 years. And so wanted to share with you this growing population chart here. This is the population projection for St. Mary's County per the Maryland Department of Planning Projections and State Data Center. So right around, I think, 2023, the estimated population was 115,000 and change. That projection out to 2045, which is the closest kind of projection year for the timeline of this plan, is just under 154,000 population at that time. So again, that's not crystal ball. That's the best projection based on kind of the data available that the center's providing. So that is kind of what we're planning in mind with at this point in time.
Can you tell me has this projection been broken out into what age ranges this growth is going to be? Is it?
That's a great question, and I don't have an answer to your question right at the moment, but be glad to get that for you. I'm betting that the State Data Center probably does break that out into age cohorts, so that's something that we can look into for you.
We could get a copy of that. I would like very much to see that information.
I can't.
Does this projection, what you have here, the 34% increase?
I see.
Between, it looks like 2020 to 2045, about 25,000 people more? Do you have an idea what the population, you're talking about seniors, those 20 to 50 and young, do you break that down? I'm saying this because I worked the 2010 census in 2020, and they had a population in our county, those 50 and older growing by over 200%, both of those census. I'm just wondering if this is continuing to project into 2045.
So we can definitely look into that. And
You'll be breaking that down too?
Yeah, and try to understand what that change looks like, comparing it to like what 2020 was saying versus what they're projecting out and what that change might look like in the future.
Because that'd be important to project how we need to prepare ourselves even more for the senior population.
One of the things that we can also do, so also on the project website is a frequently asked questions tab. And so what we can do is we can build a question that gets at the issues that have been raised this morning, and we can provide a response for everyone in the county to see, and also upload a PDF or two that actually provides a graph or some other illustration of what the data show. So that'll be available for everyone. And we'll get that linked, like I said, to the FAQ portion of the project website. Leanne?
Ms. King, there's always been this idea that the baby boomer population, that group from, say, right after World War II to after the Korean War, is now making its way through the population, and Lord knows I'm the end of that baby boomer population. And I'm also in my 70s. And the key gets to be is this drop in growth, this 11% drop in growth, does it take into account that the baby boomers will probably be passing in their 2030, 2035, 2040? And does it, what is the type of thing that would cause a drop in population?
So I think a couple of things. One is it's also important to remember that the millennial generation, Generation Y, is also kind of bigger than the boomers. So there's, yeah, it's actually larger than the boomer population. So there's another bigger subset.
I always thought they had more kids back in those days and they had less kids.
Well, over time, it gets bigger and bigger. So, yeah, so it's actually a bigger generation, depending on how you there's a debate about when the start and end years are. There's no kind of universal guideline. But generally speaking, I believe it's the mid-'80s to the 2000s or Generation Y.
Okay.
And they're actually bigger. So, but they're, as a cohort, they are, and I think the oldest Gen Z generation cohorts are waiting longer to start families and possibly having fewer children as well. So there's a couple of different factors that are playing into those numbers.
Well, let me ask you a question you may or may not know the answer to. We're at the end of the alphabet with Gen Z. What comes next?
There's already a Gen Alpha. They started over.
Awesome.
So I guess Gen Beta is next.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
And just so that we're clear and correct some previous statements, it's not a drop in growth or a decrease in population. It's a drop in the rate of growth.
Correct.
The population's still increasing significantly.
The slope is slightly lower than it was before.
That's an important distinction.
That is right. There's projected growth that will be anticipated, and there's an argument to be made that the policies coming out of this plan will have an implication on how much growth is accommodated to support that projection. Yes, that's exactly right. Growth is projected, and the exact amount of growth we'll see. I mean, normally population projections are within a range of right, but they're usually not 100% accurate. So it's the best
two
available
statistics kind of got to my attention. The first one being 1,380 participants. Whenever we see something coming through the Planning Commission or some kind of a request coming forth for a new development, you have these people who say no, no, no. And I saw here anywhere from 23 to 34% said no to new development.
Mm-hmm.
First question would be, is this 1,380 versus 115,000 people? That seems like, less than 1%. But is that statistically average for your studies that you do?
Yes. So good question. And I will say these are self-selected individuals, so this is not a statistically significant survey result because this is not a random sample. These were people that they were given the opportunity and they chose to participate. That being said, the population or the sample size you would get for a statistically significant survey is, roughly within the range here. Just to provide a comparison, we did a comprehensive plan update for Wake County, North Carolina, a number of years ago. Population of 1 million. It's kind of nice because it's a big round number at the time. And we received, I think it was, 9,500 surveys over the course of the entire project. So 3 rounds of engagement, all summed together was 9,500 surveys. So that's, 9,500 in comparison to million. Obviously, that's a big number change. But it was within the range of what it was actually much more than the range of what a statistically significant survey would require to kind of report out what, we would anticipate people's responses would be. So yes, it is within 1%, which can seem like a low number. For comprehensive planning, you're doing great if you get 2% of your population responding to the engagement. We try to make it as easy and fun and go out to a lot of different activities and meet people where they are. People are generally kind of more plugged in on current development than they are things that are going to be happening 20, 25 years down the road. It's difficult time. There's a lot of distractions, a lot of ways people want to do their...
I would say that the second engagement was more robust.
Yes.
Yes, because the first one I went to the libraries and it seems like we had under 300 people involved. The second one, you were out at outside events that people were there. I thought that was very good. I thought it would have been higher. Second question is this 23 to 34% of people who do not want development? Is that typical for any kind of surveys you see? Is there typically 30% of the people who don't want any new development?
Yes, that's very common, I would say. I would say that generally speaking, and it depends on the specific question and the community, but I would say anywhere in the realm of 45 to 60% of folks, 70% in some situations are usually supportive of growth, and there's usually some kind of a quarter or less of people that are not supportive of growth across the board.
Well, I always believe if you're not growing, you're dying, but the other part gets to be controlled growth. Making sure we have water, sewer, those types of things. Okay, well, thank you.
Next slide. So again, that Trends and Projections report will be available on St. Mary's County's website, and you can see the link there. And then the final slide here is our vision theme. So I mentioned that the next step in the process is actually to begin drafting the plan, and we are going to make one of the kind of things that we heard a lot about in the first round of engagement and through our stakeholder meetings was to make the plan more kind of accessible and improve the organization. So one of the things that we're going to do is to organize the plan under these 3 vision themes that have kind of bubbled up as the key kind of items that we're seeing that are directing the planning effort. So guiding our growth through 2050, so thinking about all of the kind of growth-related aspects of policy for the county. Protecting our environmental and agricultural resources would be the second component, and then the third would be serving our community, all of the related services that respond to growth in the community. And with that, I'm happy to take any additional questions that you might have.
Questions, anybody?
One question that I have is still kind of noodling at me. Within our growth within the county, is the plan going to address why we don't seem to be seeing or attracting, those family growth, as far as kids and growing families? Is that going to be addressed at all in this?
Yeah, and I think that one of the ways in which it can be addressed is thinking about the housing options available, especially for young new families that are just starting out, and what their housing options are. So that's an important component, obviously, for any household to be considering. That kind of got to that second question about having starter homes or townhomes. That first kind of, maybe you're leaving the apartment or maybe you're leaving your parents' house, and it's the first place that you're kind of purchasing on your own or renting potentially.
You need something affordable that you can get into.
Yes, and so that's an important part of that family kind of cohort within the different groups that, live within the county.
Because in this commissioner's opinion, I mean, we have a lot of great things that are going on within the county as far as through our, recs and parks and youth sports and all these great things, but we are just not seeing, we're just not attracting those families that would use those as much as I would like to see.
So, and this county is not the only county or local government facing this issue. It's a wonderful thing that people are living longer and able to age in place. What that also means is we don't have the normal filtering of housing. So over time, people sell their properties and someone else purchases it. People are staying longer in their homes. And so what that means is we have to provide other choices for people that might want to live in the county.
Now, can you tell me, it may be a little early for this question too, but along the same lines, how has there been a look to see how St. Mary's County is stacking up against our surrounding counties as far as that family growth percentage?
That's a really good question, and I don't believe we specifically looked at that in the trends and projections report, but that's something that we can definitely kind of take a look at.
I am writing feverishly.
Yeah.
Any more questions, commissioners? Anybody? Anything else?
No. Good.
Nope.
Oh, good.
Well, thank you all very much for your presentation. Good update, and look forward to the next one. Thank you, Ms. King.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is also from the Department of Land Use and Growth Management with the Maryland Critical Area Commission grant for fiscal year 2026. Deputy Director Courtney Jenkins presenting.
Morning, ladies.
Good morning, Commissioners. With me, I have Amanda Yao. She's our Division Manager for Environmental Planning. So on May 6, 2025, the department received Commissioner approval to apply for a new critical area grant that would award St. Mary's County $25,000. As previously stated, there's no local match required, and the one-time grant will be utilized to review the county's existing local critical area program and identify any potential amendments that might need to happen to align with the criteria of COMAR. So the Critical Area Commission has awarded the department the one-time grant of $25,000 to St. Mary's County. So at this time, we would request the commissioners to authorize the Department of Land Use and Growth Management to accept the Maryland Critical Area Commission grant for FY26 and authorize Commissioner President Guy to sign all related documents.
You said this is a one-time grant?
Yes, sir.
So how are we going to use these funds in order to accomplish this goal?
Okay.
So
If you could please move to the other mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we are exploring the option of hiring a consultant. We understand that the Critical Area Commission based the award on what they have known has been the cost to do this type of work, this comprehensive review, in the past with other jurisdictions. So with your approval, we will work with procurement and hope to find a consultant that would be willing to help us do this work. If not, we've done the work. We've done quite a bit of meeting and working together as a team with legal over the past year and a half or so. So we do have a nice draft document that we can work with and make some edits to, separate and apart from a consultant. However, we do hope to be able to obtain a consultant to do this work with us.
And is it right to assume that wherever we are not in line with the state is more restrictive than what's currently on the books in St. Mary's County? Or is that
Actually,
a wrong assumption?
There are quite a few situations where our regulations are maybe not intentionally, but more restrictive than state regulations. So we hope to work through those things, but there's some streamlining. But or for me, I am focused on the areas where we are more restrictive. We'd like to be more in line with state law and less restrictive wherever we can be.
Excellent.
Excellent. Good. Good.
Well, I'd like you to, again, I mentioned earlier, I spent 9 years on that commission. Out of the 10 and a half years I've been a commissioner. And what I'd like you to specifically look at whatever you get, before you get to a consultant, is look at these RCAs, LDAs, and IDAs, resource conservation areas, limited development areas, intense development areas, and how they're allocated, how that process, that critical area comes about to determine those. Because I've heard from constituents who find out that their property's in an RCA or in an LDA, and that they don't know what that actually means to them. So how is that determined? So do they use a map somewhere from Google Earth and just say, okay, we're going to shoot this area and that's it, and what I've been told is that the landowner then has to prove that they're not in a critical area or in a RCA, or they shouldn't be. They were misdesignated with their wetlands or something, and it becomes a burden to them to prove to MDE or critical area that their land is not that, and they spend thousands of dollars on, and because it's predicated on someone threw a map over an area and said this is it without looking at it. And so it would be nice to know how that methodology is used.
Right.
And if constituents want to look at their personal properties, the properties they own, and refute that, what is a less costly way of doing it instead of hiring someone expert out of Annapolis or Baltimore or whatever it is to come down and try and do that. So I see that as being something that would be helpful to focus $25,000, because that does have a lot of impact on people's properties.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, we will look at the wetland maps. We'll work with the state and see if they have any revisions coming out in those maps, and if any of the revisions are based on the previous research and the environmental studies that have been done by local property owners, and if we can incorporate that information.
Well, let me give you a specific example. Corinthian Yacht Club down in southern part of the county, they have residual property that's in an LDA. It's a limited development area down there, and the land doesn't perk. But what they're allowed to do for what they have is an alternative drip system, is the term, alternative sewage system. So their issue is they need to figure out ways to be more economically viable in this age of rising cost. So they have land that they want to do some limited type of development. But when they go to critical area, when they go to MDE, when they go to the health department, they're told, well, we don't have the ability to, we don't have the manpower. We don't have the ability to look into that. Therefore, we're going to say no because we can't not monitor it. Now, the state of Maryland allows these alternative sewage systems, disposal systems. And the key is that, maybe we can get a third party involved that is certified by the MDE or the people in the health department that would allow these people to do something with their properties and overcome the lack of no manpower. So something along that line that lets people understand what they can do if they have those type of designations. I know that's kind of pinpointing it, but you don't have a lot of money with $25,000.
Right. Not a lot of money and not a lot of time. Thank you, Commissioner. We will absolutely look into that, and I will raise those questions to our partners.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to move to approve the budget amendment for $25,000 and authorize the Department of Land Use and Growth Management to accept the awarded Maryland Critical Area Commission grant for FY 2026 in the amount of $25,000. And authorize the Commissioner President to execute all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is also from the Department of Land Use and Growth Management regarding the Zone 24-413 Pax River Village Center.
Okay, so on July 15th, the commissioners voted to approve the request for the Pax River Village Center to rezone and redesignate the portions of the properties which are not within the ACUS to high-intensity mixed use, the MXH district. The motion on July 15th directed staff to prepare a final ordinance with the required findings. This task has been completed and approved for legal sufficiency, and therefore the drafted ordinance is before you. And the findings within are based upon the materials that were presented by staff, the applicants, the public, and the commissioners' discussion prior to the vote on July 15th. And that is all I have.
I
on
believe we
that.
have a commissioner with a conflict, don't we?
Yeah, correct. I'm going to abstain.
Any questions? No questions.
All right, thank
Need a
you.
motion?
I'm going to move to approve and sign the final ordinance, which includes the required findings of fact to change the zoning designation to high-intensity mixed-use, MXH, for the portions of the properties located outside the air installation compatible zone, use zone, ACUS, at the Pax River Village Center in Lexington Park, Maryland.
Second.
Discussion. We debated this last week, not going to rehash the whole debate. I'm voting no because the U.S. Navy has officially said that they are concerned that this would risk citizen safety and potentially jeopardize the mission of Pax River Naval Air Station, so I cannot support.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Ayes have it.
It's 3-1, right?
Right, 3-1.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next up is from the Department of Economic Development with an MOU with Towson University for a regional workforce study. Director Chris Casalemas presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Weiskopf. Also
Along with
invite Lee Greeley. Yep. Lee's our business development specialist. He oversees workforce development.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So today we're asking commissioners to approve an MOU with Towson University to perform a labor study for Southern Maryland. Our department's comprehensive economic development strategic plan includes workforce development and talent attraction as one of the key areas of focus. This initiative aims at ensuring that the county has a workforce that is available and properly trained to meet the needs of local businesses. In support of this area of focus, the department's looking to enter into an MOU with Towson University to execute a comprehensive workforce study of St. Mary's County and the Southern Maryland region. The workforce study will provide a comprehensive look at the landscape of workforce development, detailed data, forecasting of future trends and demands, recommendations in St. Mary's County as well as the entire Southern Maryland region. The results will help inform the strategic direction for future workforce development initiatives while navigating the implementation of our strategic plan. Towson has a institute called the Regional Economic Studies Institute, or RESI, and they're going to take the lead on this. They've actually done work for us about 10 years ago, and we put together our first economic development strategic plan. They're really quite competent. And the study, again, will include Calvert, Charles, and focus a little bit on the base. Final report will include a detailed discussion of the findings and include a discussion of assumptions used in the analysis, recommendations from the findings, and a variety of figures illustrating the findings. The study cost is $69,000. It'll be funded in partnership. Calvert, Charles County, the county, and NOC-AD will also provide funding. So if approved by the commissioners, the final report, we expect it to be done in 2026. We don't need additional county funds. We've already allocated funding from our department for this purpose.
I like this. I like that it's a partnership between multiple parties. I would love to have whoever does it at Towson come back and give us a report when they finish up the report.
Yeah.
You should come back and listen to that, too.
I don't think I'm coming back. I believe, is that part of the scope that they're going to do a presentation? I'm sure we could get them to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure we can reach out to them to do a formal presentation. Obviously, they'll have the documents of it, so we can definitely invite them to come and do a presentation.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Good. Does everybody have the same amount of money in the program? If it's $69,000 and we get $29,000, sounds like we get a lion's share.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
we're-
what I wrote down, Commissioner.
Yep, we're paying-
Holding the lion's share of this.
Certainly, we're paying a little bit more, and we're going to get more of the focus of the study on Southern Maryland, on the base, not KD. So that's kind of like we're paying for the amount of analysis that we're getting back. So yes, we initiated it. We want it more focused on St. Mary's County than the other. They are going to look a little bit beyond our border, but it's commensurate with the amount of work that's going to be
I
done.
view it more as our neighboring counties are helping supplement our costs.
Well, they're going to look at the other.
Undergoing a huge expansion over the next several years.
Yeah.
And I know with the amount of money that we're funneling through Tri-County Council to Indian Head, and with the construction of the skiff and some traffic things that are going on down there, that with Charles County just dropping 10,000, that's really not,
It doesn't sound like a lot. Yeah.
that's not a lot at all. I mean,
I'm happy
but
for the
that's just my
participation.
I guess that's just my sour grapes for us spending more money on this than our neighboring counties.
And from the standpoint of workforce development, we do have the highest influx of talent coming into the county, whereas the other two counties do have a lot of outflow. So it is, from the workforce standpoint, the base is probably the largest catalyst in the region. So some of that, again, will inherently, the data will support our county's work with supporting the base and the industries that surround it. So.
I was at a meeting yesterday where they talked about people coming to work on the base, or the younger engineers, I shouldn't say engineers, but just say a younger generation of people. And that they stay a couple of years and then they say, hey, there's not enough to do. I want to get up to the Washington area. I want to get to more metropolitan areas. Are we going to look at the types of, when you say a regional workforce study, what's it going to look like? What's it going to look at?
So I think it's going to touch on some of what you mentioned. Obviously, the demographics of the workforce, the gaps in the workforce of what are those jobs looking like, what are the requirements of those jobs, and a piece of it will also be helping to formulate a plan that we can then take further of how do we, if there are gaps, how do we help to track them a little bit more? The work our department does already supports some of this, but there are opportunities for us to identify ways we can support things better or differently. But with our, we anecdotally do know that is a challenge of retention of the workforce and attraction of the workforce. Something that you all had mentioned earlier about the attraction of like the younger families. When we did our 20 Away campaign a few years ago, it identified that was our most engaging audience, is the young families that are ready to kind of plant roots. So some of that is going to be incorporated into hopefully things they'll find that we maybe are either missing or will reinforce we should put more resources into. But that definitely is a gap that anecdotally we know exists. So there is a hope that this study will help us better align our partners, our resources, our department efforts to further support that attraction and retention of the younger workforce.
But that is exactly like Lee said. We have great jobs down here. Young people get attracted. There's high salaries, engaging jobs, and many of them will come here and they'll just not get engaged totally with the environment, with the community and what's going on, maybe hooking up with other people. And they tend sometimes to not stay as long. Younger families are actually, like Commissioner Ostro said, we're actually very good with young families. We have our Parks and Rec programs that's very supportive. Young families love St. Mary's County. We do a little bit better there. But those younger folks, and we have things like Young Professionals organization to get people connected to other people, because if they're engaged and they know other people, there's a tendency for them to want to stay versus them just kind of going home in their apartment and doing their own thing by themselves. If they know other people and they're aware of things to do around here. Many people, you talk to some people who are relatively new and you say, well, have you been to Leonardtown? Leonardtown, where's that? Like, how long have you lived here? Like 2 years. Well, there's a lot of fun stuff to do here. So Young Professionals also kind of brings them around to different places and kind of brings it up. And we work closely with Visit St. Mary's also, because they all about, things to do and attractions and stuff.
Well, the other half of the coin yesterday was that we had an organic farmer there, and his point was that illegal immigrants he could hire them for $18 an hour. Now, I'm not trying to talk about illegal immigrants or any immigrants at all, but the key was, his point was, is losing this workforce, losing this talent was essentially his term, because he said they were way ahead of the curve in learning what to do about agricultural products and things like that. And also someone spoke of the construction industry and losing that workforce talent that seems to be showing up on these 100-degree days. Or anyway, point is, look at that aspect too. Not only the people who are working on base, but the people who are on the outside too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And within our department, we're engaged in a lot of what I'm doing with our business retention and workforce, a part of the Workforce Investment Board and some of these other entities in the region. And there are programs that will be identified and incorporated into this, such as the Road to Careers grant that the Tri-County Council just received to support construction trades and like CDL licenses and equipment operators and those things. So it will not be only focused on one entity. It will kind of cast that net of those industries and careers that do have those gaps. So,
good. Anything else, Commissioner?
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding with Towson University for a regional workforce study and have the Commissioner President sign all related agreements.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up is also from the Department of Economic Development with the new and expanding business property tax credit incentive for Aviation Systems Engineering Company.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Weiskopf. Yep. Today we have a request from Aviation Systems Engineering Company, ASIC, for a property tax credit under the county's new and expanding business tax credit incentive program. This is the St. Mary's County incentive for businesses located in or moving to the county in a targeted industry, hiring at least 10 full-time employees over a 3-year period. I'll note that in the audience we have Brian Barthelemy and Karen Bailey from ASIC. Commissioners, just a little background. The commissioners approved this property tax credit incentive in March of 2017. The property tax credit allows businesses in the following industries that will create 10 or more jobs to receive a property tax credit for up to 10 years. Defense technology, cybersecurity, aerospace aviation, unmanned and autonomous systems, agriculture, technology manufacturing. Tax credits open to businesses that own their property or lease the property. In this case, they're leasing their property. Process includes a review, an application process, a review by my department, a recommendation by me to the commissioners, and final decision is by the commissioners. It's discretionary. We've reviewed the application. We do recommend approval. We recommend, based on their projections, we recommend that we will provide them with $10,000 property tax credit for a 10-year period if they reach the numbers that they say they're going to. And just a little information from their application. I think this is important. This incentive will be instrumental in supporting our strategic decision to expand in St. Mary's County. It will provide the resources needed to invest in critical infrastructure, enabling us to accommodate our growing team and meet the increasing demand for our services in St. Mary's County. St. Mary's offers an ideal location with a supportive business environment, access to a skilled workforce, and proximity to Pax River Naval Air Station and key industry partners. The incentive will strengthen our ability to solidify our long-term presence in the area, helping us create jobs, drive innovation, and contribute to the local economy. So their projection is that they're going to hire 18 FTEs in each of the next 3 years for a total of 54 new jobs. And based on our schedule that we have in the incentive, they're hiring 26 or more people. It's a $10,000 credit for up to 10 years. So the incentive kicks in when they've reached those numbers. As I noted, they're leasing from Expedition 2, LLC, and we have an agreement. They're part of the agreement, so they've agreed to take the discount they get because they get the property tax benefit and do a dollar-for-dollar reduction of the lease for ASIC for their property.
So the benefit goes to the company.
The business, not the property tax owner. Right?
That's what I was trying to understand.
Yeah.
So, but the property owner gets the benefit and transfers it to the tenant?
They reduce their lease payment by the dollar for amount. So they'll reduce their leases.
Is that somewhere written in law, written in some kind of agreement?
It's in the agreement that we have before you today. They're a party to signing it, so Mike Wettengale has agreed to that, and he's signed off on this agreement.
Okay.
And this doesn't go into effect until they hit, 26 people, or the number that they ultimately projected?
Is that how we do
Correct.
it?
Yeah. As soon as they hit the threshold they have 3 years from the date the agreement's enacted to reach that threshold. And then once that threshold is reached, then it's formally enacted from there.
Got it.
Well, this seems to be something that happens in St. Mary's County with a lot of companies that start up here. You know, J.F. Taylor, there's many of them.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's successful, and it's
Yes.
a good thing.
Yes. Yeah. And just to note, I mean, ASIC has employees in Arizona, California, Florida, North Carolina, and Nevada.
Washington, D.C.
So, they get offers, I know, from other states saying, we'd like to have you here. Can you move your headquarters here? So I think it's important for us to show that we're committed to these companies. They're headquartered here and employing St. Mary's County employees. So, I wish we actually gave this incentive away more. I think we've only done it maybe four?
Yeah, four.
Four in the 8 years we've had it. So I'm glad they've taken us up on it. It's a little bit of work for them, a little bit of a hassle, but they're interested and they've taken the time to apply. And I think that's good for us and good for them.
I'm glad to see Mr. Bartholomew still in St. Mary's County. I had heard he moved to Florida, but that's not true. Here
He's got a good tan, so I think he's been there recently.
Yeah, he's got a good tan. Anyway, this is a great thing.
Just one question on the comment you made on how you'd like to see this done more often. Is there any reasoning why more companies don't take advantage of this, or is there something more we could be doing to advertise it more, or is it?
That's a good question. And we talk about this internally because we also have the facade improvement grant, you know.
Yes,
and-
right.
yeah,
We've talked about that many times.
Yeah, and we get a lot of times we'll sit down with companies, and Lee is our retention expert, so he sits down with companies all the time. And if he thinks they qualify, he puts it on the table, say, hey, we do have this incentive. And many times they're like, oh, this is great. We'd love to do this. And then they don't kind of follow through. I think they're just busy doing their day-to-day work. Sometimes the amount is maybe not enough to kind of get them motivated to do it. But I don't know if you have other comments.
I mean, I think over the last couple of years, it's been more of a part of the conversation, which is helpful, which, again, I think our department being out there and trying to share it out, I think we could definitely use any additional support that you all may have and others when you're out there. If you know of a business that, hey, we're really looking to move into a new location or add more square footage, usually that will come with more jobs. So we're always happy to have a conversation with them. I do think we've also focused in the last couple of years on trying to ensure that the process is simple for businesses and getting the information we need, but making it simple and not a time-consuming process, because there's always that thought that because they're going to be applying for some sort of opportunity with the county or state, it's going to be a 100-page document that they have to go through, which it really isn't. So we're trying to help support that. But I do think that it hopefully will have more opportunities for having more businesses take advantage of it. I do think it is an awareness piece, which, again, our department is boots on the ground, grassroots, trying to share that out, but we could always use any businesses that are interested or have questions, please reach out, because we definitely want to be able to put it on the table for them.
And even being here today, I mean, this is a televised meeting, and maybe it will make the papers, and other companies will say, oh, that's interesting. I'd like to find out more about that, and they'll contact us.
I'll move to approve the new and expanding business property tax credit for Aviation Systems Engineering Company, ASICS, and have the Commissioner present sign all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you all.
Hey, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up from the Department of Aging and Human Services is the fiscal year 2026 Area Plan Update Application and Notification of Grant Award for State Grants. Ms. Lori Jennings Harris presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Weiskopf. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
So the Maryland Department of Aging requires the AAAs, the area agencies on aging across the state of Maryland, to complete an area plan, a 4-year area plan, every 4 years. So the one that we are currently working under is 2024 through 2027. Along those 4 years, we have to do an update. So this is the FY26 area plan update, and it helps to cover the projections that we plan for the year ahead in terms of the programs and services that we provide to the older adults of St. Mary's County. Gauri Apte is our fiscal manager, and she is the one who's responsible for managing many federal and state grants that we have. And she's going to give you a brief overview of the funding for the area plan.
Good morning.
Morning.
We are presenting the FY26 Area Plan Update application and the notification of award for the state grants. The area plan allocation includes 5 state grants and 9 federal grants. These grants support various programs like senior care and nutrition. The total area plan budget consists of $587,659 in grant funds, $144,110 in county match, and an estimated donation amount of $45,000. So we are requesting that you review and approve the area plan application and the related budget amendments.
So, Commissioners, you're familiar with the multiple programs that we provide to the older adults, like the Home Delivered Meals Program, which is what was we were recognizing Hank for earlier, delivering the home delivered meals. Also, the Congregate Meals Program, the Ombudsman Program, National Family Caregiver Support Program, and Health Promotion programs as well as others.
Very good. Well, I move to approve the FY 2026 Area Plan Update Application and Notice of Grant Award for the state grants, project numbers MD 2601, MD 2602, MD 2604, MD 2606, MD 2614, received from the Maryland Department of Aging on behalf of the St. Mary's County Department of Aging and Human Services, the related budget amendments, and authorize the Commissioner President to execute the related documents.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, from the Department of Public Works and Transportation, the Airport Paving Contract Award Recommendation. Acting Director Donnie Mills presenting, along with Gary Whipple, Deputy Director. Welcome.
Welcome, guys.
So good morning.
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 Commissioners, we're here today to request that the contract to pave the airport be awarded. As you know, Mr. Whipple and his team has worked very hard to keep the project on track. And this contract would help do that.
Very good.
So I have Mr. Whipple here if you have any questions about the airport project.
I think just for people to understand, when you're paving an airport, it's a little different than paving a road. There's a little more complexity and higher specifications that need to be involved,
Thank
right?
you for clarifying that, because in a lot of the discussions about this project, everyone said that it's a difficult spec to meet. Well, it's not a difficult spec to meet, it's an aviation spec. I mean, it's difficult in the perspective of horizontal transportation, but you're right, it's a very different spec. You have large aircraft, high approach speed, coming in, impacting this asphalt. You have to have a bigger section. It has to be able to absorb all that energy, or else you're going to be repaving your runway every 3 years. So it's not a difficult spec, it's an aviation spec. Thank
So
you for pointing that out.
So tell me, when do you think this airport runway extension is going to be finished?
So once we receive approval on this contract document, the commencement date will be determined, as with all contracts. After you award the contract, there'll be a period for getting the bonds and the insurance, and then the commencement date will start based upon that. The schedule's built on that. We've laid out next week as the tentative start for the work. Alan Myers is going to work to meet that. Right now, they're wrapping up a job this week for VDOT, and so they want to transition that crew over to our work.
So within the next couple of weeks, they'll start.
Yes, sir. And we're looking at 16 production days of paving. The term of the contract is to the end of October, so we have 16 days to get.
Okay, so you're talking next 3 or 4 months. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this has been going on for years. You know, we had stuff in the underground that we had to dig out, and then this, that, and the other, and Lord knows we lost the last contractor because he couldn't perform, and it's just been one thing after another getting that airport done. So you think that airport extension, if everything goes right, will be done by the end of this year?
I don't want to jinx this thing, but I mean, they want to be.
You're the guy working on it, so.
The contractor wants to be done and out of here the end of August, because remember, that's the best paving weather.
Right.
And
Yeah,
he's
no,
in the
I get
middle,
it.
he's in the middle of a VDOT contract, which dwarfs ours, and he's told VDOT, I'm going to disappear for about 3 weeks to go take care of this airport in Maryland. So he wants out of here, and he wants it done just as fast as we do. So,
And once
but
he's
this-
done, you got to test it, right?
Right. So paving is only half of what we're doing. The other half, is, as you know, is we're finishing the lighting and the markings for the runway. The runway has to be properly lit and marked for it to be safe, and then we have to do a flight check. So paving is the main portion of the work, but we still have all that ancillary work to do as well. And that's being coordinated on the side as we go along.
All right, one more question. When you talk about flight check, it's this my interpretation that once this thing is longer, bigger planes can land.
Correct.
Okay, so you're going to bring the bigger planes in and land them and make sure the stuff holds up?
So with the flight check will be checking because now we're changing our approach. The flight check will be just making sure that our equipment that that indicates the glide slope to the pilots that are in approach.
It's more complicated than that.
Yeah, it is designed for the larger jets, and when the FAA flies it themselves and says that we have a correct glide slope, then they'll say, okay, you can now, with that new approach, you can bring in those larger aircraft. So it's that imminent. We're looking to have that flight check done the end of August, maybe the first week of September.
Excellent.
Good.
Yeah,
Well, you know, someone told me they landed there in the evening one time and there was a piece of equipment on the runway. And it was, we won't have any of that going on. People will know, or the equipment will be removed.
Correct.
We'll have some kind of continuity on that, right?
Correct, and that's why we shorten the runway away from the existing end so that equipment can be up around the end so that there's like a 300-foot gap between.
All right.
Yeah, so yeah, the aviation construction safety will be monitored and enforced.
Good.
I move to approve and authorize the procurement office to sign a contract in an amount estimated to exceed $1 million to Allen Myers, MD, Inc., to complete the paving of the St. Mary's County Regional Airport in accordance with the contractual agreement finalized by county staff.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any objections? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, from the Department of Recreation and Parks, Land Water Conservation Fund Grant Award, Director Ray Bevins, presenting.
Good morning,
Morning, Mr.
Commissioners.
Morning.
Today I'm before you with a $350,000 competitive grant. It's from the Land and Water Federal Program through the National Park Service, but it has passed through to the state of Maryland, who went through a competitive process and selected us for our upcoming next two playgrounds. So it's a $350,000 grant altogether. The first will be at St. Clement Shores. We conducted a very detailed survey online, got over 600 responses, and are making changes to that playground based on what people wanted to see. If you haven't guessed it, the number one thing is more shade. So we're including more shade in that one. And I'm also very excited about the second playground this would help, which is at Cecil Park. And that one we're going to dedicate to children with autism and educating people about autism. So this will be a first for us. We put out an interest to see how many people would want to serve on a planning committee. We had over 100 people express interest. So we're whittling that down. We'll include them in some point, but we asked for people that work directly, have family members with autism or in the industry. So that's very exciting news. So I'm asking the
350 total grant, not
350 total.
per
And
playground.
it's in total for both.
Okay.
And it'll help offset some of our open space funding as well. So asking for acceptance of this grant today.
Tell me, what does an autism playground look like? I'm sorry, I just don't know. I mean, I support it. I'm going to
Yep.
vote for this. Just tell me.
So I think what I've seen in other places, and I'm not trying to forecast exactly what ours will be, it's you want to avoid sensory overload. You want to have more space, kind of, fencing is very important because autistic children are prone to wander and kind of take off. So there's basics like that. But I think the flip side for other users is just signage that talks about autism, how to communicate better with kids, how to understand what they're dealing with in those families. So it's as much for the rest of the world as it is for the autistic families, but that, the playground's a playground, and just like can-do playgrounds are accessible, folks jump on them and they don't even realize that it's an accessible playground. But if you're that family that has a child that needs that accessibility, you really understand and appreciate it. So I think this playground will be really...
Cecil, is that the one down in Valley Lee or something?
Yes.
Just seems like it's a little out of the way. I mean, we wouldn't want to put that somewhere where there's more population?
The park gets a good bit of use. I think this is something being a one of its kind in the county. I think people will be willing to travel, and we're also limited by our replacement schedule. So kind of looking at what's coming up when, this was the site that made the most sense.
Well, we hear people in the northern part of the county claiming that there's not enough recreation for children up there. That was just my thought. All
I
right.
think Fifth District was just done several years ago. I think Fifth District was redone since I've been on this board.
All right, well, this replacement schedule.
A couple of years ago, like two.
Okay.
And it's sort of in the middle part of the county, type of place, yeah.
Well, I move to accept the $350,000 Land Water Conservation Grant Award for the construction of St. Clement Shores and Cecil Park playgrounds.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you. And next up is also from the Department of Recreation and Parks for the Art Council Grant Beneficiary Agreement, and I see she's been waiting patiently this whole meeting. Welcome.
So this is the second. You've heard about this one before, but I love when we compete at either a state or a national level for funds and they bring back. This was one that Susie gets a lot of credit for. This is a $450,000 grant. You guys have seen this before. We're at the final contract stage now. If you approve, this would go to the Board of Public Works. There is some small things related to liability that I put into my memo. Buffy's also here if you have any questions on that one. The reason they're there is because we're not just participating in this, we're the home. So it'll be in our building, so they have labeled us a beneficiary, which is true in some way, but we're also a landlord in some ways, and those type of things. I'm glad to answer any questions or have Susie and Buffy join me if you'd like more information about the makerspace.
Well, this is phenomenal. This is a great partnership. I'm so proud of the Arts Council for what you've done with this. This is great. I'm excited for this.
So this one will be down at Carver.
This will be in the Carver Recreation Center, the old elementary school, and that would be the what I would call the, get my geography here, East Wing.
That won't fall into anything to do with the ACUs, or, because I know that's in the ACUs.
It's an existing use. We're all good on that front. Yep.
Good.
It checks a lot of boxes. So, all right, I move to approve the Maryland State Arts Council grant agreement and authorize Commissioner President to sign all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any disapproval? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I look forward to some pottery training.
There you go. Next up is from the Office of the County Attorney, the approval of the 2026 legislative agenda schedule. Deputy County Attorney John Sterling Hauser.
Good morning, Commissioners. For your last
Morning,
agenda
John.
item this morning, I'm happy you're bringing for you in a departure from recent appearances by me. Simple memo, one page, doesn't have 22 individually tabbed attachments, just a simple, straightforward memorandum presenting you our proposed schedule for the 2026 legislative agenda proposal timeline. Commissioners, you'll remember this is about the time of year where we begin soliciting proposals from members of the public, from fellow members of county government, from our sister organizations like the Sheriff's Office, Metropolitan Commission, anyone else who'd like to pitch in, and last but not least, the commissioners themselves for potential ideas for bills that we would like to propose to the delegation. A schedule works backwards from a meeting date of October 7th, and we did try to get a later date this year. But I think October 7th
Seems silly to meet so early when they don't even look at it till December.
Well,
We
they
did
always say
try.
they
I
need to
think-
get it into bill writing or something. So October 7th is the date for the joint meeting?
October 7th is the date for the joint meeting. That's been cleared with the delegation. My understanding, when I say we did try now for the third or fourth time, we did try to get a later date.
I believe you.
But what drove this one was I just think that is a date that works for all of the delegation members. if I
Now, is that a
recall.
night meeting or a day meeting?
That's traditionally an evening meeting.
Says 6:30 p.m.
Tuesday in the evening.
So we are anticipating full delegation participation?
That's the anticipation. Yep.
So can I ask another question, Mr. Hauser?
Yes, sir.
I've never understood. It makes sense that we do this where we get, the county government's legislative proposals and our partner agencies, the sheriff's office, things like that, and facilitate them. But we have no decision-making on whether or not they take this legislation forward. This is totally the delegation's decision. Why are we the middle person for the community? Why don't we tell the community, if you have legislative ideas, go to the delegation. The delegation can set up a meeting if they want with the community. It just always feels weird that we're in the middle, because sometimes it puts us in a weird place if some people bring forward legislation that we don't support, and hey, delegation, here's what somebody from the community said, but we don't support this.
Custom is my answer to that one. There's
Okay.
no strict requirement. There's no requirement we do public hearings. There's no requirement we solicit proposals from the public at large on this. This is just truly an idea, commissioners. All you all are offering an opinion. Doesn't carry the force of law, obviously. You can put whatever process, public notice on this one as you want. For as long as I've been here, and my understanding is for quite some time before, we have solicited proposals for the public, taken them, presented them. There's no requirement we do that. If we ever want to depart for it, I hear, Commissioner, what you're saying. That might streamline and make for a less confusing process at time of what's the difference between receiving a public proposal and then supporting it, or receiving it and then forwarding it without comment. And our approach to how we've handled situations like that has varied. If the commissioners would like us to pursue a change from how we've been doing it, we are certainly receptive to any direction the commissioners would like to give on this. But this plan has been done up the way we have done it in the past.
I think we should make sure, though, we put in our release somehow that the public themselves can go direct to the delegation.
Yes.
They don't have to go through us at all. And if they do come to us with their proposal, there's no guarantee the commissioners will support them.
Okay.
That's
We
the only thing,
can-
I want to make sure they understand that.
We can add a sentence or two to the public ad in the second
We
paragraph.
need to do that,
speaks to
make sure
that
they
as
understand, they can do it
consensus.
direct to themselves. They don't have to come to us.
Got it. We can do that. So then working backwards from October 7th, that means that get the go ahead today. First public notice will run the end of this week. We're saying submissions due from whatever vector they come in from August 29th. 2 weeks after that, we give our first airing of the proposals to the commissioners, receive initial feedback, refine proposals as the commissioners may direct. 2 weeks after that, we come back for a final vote for the commissioners on what will and will not be part of the legislative package. And then 2 weeks after that is when we'd have October 7th. That gives us about a week more in between those meeting points than we've had in the past. Should get us out of being in a crunch to get things out the door immediately if the commissioners tell us to amend, drop, change proposals during it. And I think that'll make it more workable, easier on, not really myself, but certainly Angelo Blondino, because that's who really does the work on this.
Sounds good, John.
I move to approve the proposed schedule for development of the Commissioners of St. Mary's County's 2026 legislative agenda as presented by the County Attorney's Office.
Second.
I have a first and second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, John.
Very much, Commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And Commissioners, that is all from the County Administrator's agenda.
Okay, we go right into Commissioner time, and we're going to start with Commissioner Hewitt this time.
Oh, well, thank you. I mentioned earlier that I attended a meeting yesterday. It's the first time I've ever been to a meeting that included people from the Federal Reserve. Now, Federal Reserve is a quasi-governmental entity. I've never really understood the Federal Reserve. It's not I've read up on it. It's not really a government-run organization. But it's this group that sets interest rates. And there's been a lot of pressure to reduce interest rates. And it was very interesting yesterday to have a vice president from the Richmond Federal Reserve, Mr. Andrew Bauer, goes by Andy, come and want to listen to what's going on here in St. Mary's County. And it was through the Chamber of Commerce. They met with a group of nonprofits prior to the meeting with the Chamber group, and they had invited commissioners, and I went. Now, of course, my goal in going there was to say that with this H.R. 1 bill that's been passed, it's referred to as the Big Beautiful Bill, that they're going to raise the state and local tax deduction, which is currently $10,000, to $40,000. That's going to have an impact on St. Mary's County, because what we know from what we've witnessed from the federal tax cut of 2018 was that when they reduced that down to $10,000, St. Mary's County appreciated a lot more income tax, millions of dollars more. Raising it back to $40,000, well, someone could infer that it's going to be millions of dollars less. So that's something that worries this commissioner going forward. I don't think it'll happen during my term on this board, but I think it'll be something that St. Mary's County has to deal with. And the point is that the gentleman there said, well, you know, they hadn't thought about it from that perspective. My goal was to encourage them to reduce interest rates because that'll spur economic development, which I think is the real key to getting more revenues into the county. When people are making more, a rising tide floats all boats, as they say. Excuse me. And the key is to get more people able to buy housing, able to, buy vehicles and this and that. And so there was an interesting conversation. But two things that came out of this meeting yesterday that I learned from other people there was housing affordability. And the Vice President of the Federal Reserve said, it's everywhere. It's across the country. The cost of housing is just so high. Now, they talked about places in West Virginia and Western North Carolina where you could still get a home for $250,000 or whatever someone's idea of affordable housing is. But it is something that's nationwide that it's just too high everywhere. And because you could get more bang for your buck when the rates, what I mean by that is when the rates were low during 2%, 3%, and people were buying mortgages or buying homes that are probably larger homes because they could afford them. But now that they're up at 6 and 7%, they can't afford those. So, and nobody wants to get out of their cheap or their low interest rates to get into a higher interest rate. It's a conundrum, that's my term, that people are afraid to move forward and they're unsure. Now, the other thing they talked about was the labor uncertainty, and that's also affecting us here. Everywhere, every municipality, everywhere, vacancies are going unfilled. They're going unfilled in St. Mary's County. How do you attract your labor? How do you attract your people to come and fill your vacancies? Everybody is offering more money, more benefits, more amenities to come and work for them, bonuses, things like that. And they're continuing to have this struggle. So it was interesting that someone from the Federal Reserve came to St. Mary's County to listen to these types of concerns. And I look forward to hopefully seeing him do it in the future because it was a good give and take. Now, tonight we have a public forum. And one of the things that we've heard about is recently we talked about maybe the idea of a moratorium or the idea of amendment. I use the term more regulation. Some people refer to it as tools in a toolbox. I just refer to it as more regulation that we put on businesses or development or anything that's happening. And I believe development is good if it's controlled development. Now, when we talk about a lot of development, we talk about the impact of traffic, that it's already clogging our intersections, failing intersections. And I think what's important to understand here is that our state representatives, it's the state of Maryland, the state highway administration's job to fix those types of issues. Now, they may look at St. Mary's County and say, well, for the amount of money available, they can get a bigger bang for the buck in the metropolitan areas because there's larger populations using those roads. But I think to say that we cannot allow some type of development due to the amount of traffic it may create, it really falls upon our state delegates to help us get more state participation in fixing our intersections, adding lanes, whatever they need to do to get it so this traffic situation is safer. Now, in the next 2 weeks, we don't have meetings. But in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have the Maryland Association of Counties conference out in Ocean City. It's going to be, I think, August 12th through the 16th. And at that meeting, at that conference, we'll have an opportunity to meet with secretaries from Governor Moore's cabinet. I hope to meet with the secretary from Maryland Department of the Environment, talk about things about the pipeline that goes down to Piney Point and find out why that's still denied access after 40 years of that grant and how EPA doesn't even follow it anymore after 20 years. There's other, and I also want to talk to the comptroller about the effects of this salt and what we can expect going forward. Because I do believe we're going to have a big fund balance again this year. And I do believe that we have to be cautious in how we utilize it, that they may not be coming in future years. So there's a lot going on. Now, the last thing I'll say, we're in the dog days of summer. Lord knows Maryland, especially St. Mary's County, in July and August are always hot. But boy, have we had a heat dome going on the last few weeks, and it's supposed to continue. So stay cool if you can. Check on those who need help. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Colvin.
Very good. So it was a busy weekend. I want to highlight just a couple of the things that I was able to attend over the weekend. First off, I got to see the Summer Stock musical Tarzan. That cast and crew did a great job. The live orchestra was phenomenal. The behind the scenes, it was very well done. It was a lot of fun. If you missed our Summer Stock, don't miss it next year. They always do a great job, and congratulations to everyone involved with that. Also, I was able to attend, we have a nonprofit in the county called Growing Stems, and they put on what they called Hive Hysteria. Now, this is a nonprofit that teaches kids, or young people and kids, about robotics and engineering, a lot of STEM education outside of the school system, and they put on this robotics competition, which was basically BattleBots, the old TV show BattleBots. They had over 50 robots there from states across the country, Delaware, Pennsylvania, Colorado. People traveled here to participate in this competition, and it was a lot of fun. It was absolutely incredible. Some really smart people, and they were bringing people here to do this. So good job to them. Great work. It was very interesting and really good to see them thriving. They had done the competition last year and had 12 robots participate. So they've just really grown this and expanded it. And it's good for St. Mary's County as a whole. It's good for our young people. It's really exciting. I also attended a birthday party that my son was invited to, which was also a lot of fun. It was very hot on Saturday. It was an outdoor birthday party. Southern Maryland Laser Tag was there for the birthday party. And I want the commissioners to know that I am better than 7-year-olds at laser tag. So a bunch of other dads and a few moms participated in the laser tag. It was a lot of fun. I think we enjoyed it more than the kids probably did, but the kids enjoyed it. It was really great. It was a lot of fun. Southern Maryland Laser Tag. He told me he does almost 100 different events a year, and he does more parties for adults than he does for kids. So it was a lot. It was really fun. It was really interesting. We're off for 2 weeks. We have the Mako Conference coming up. I'll provide daily updates of what I'm doing while I'm out there at the Mako Conference. And don't forget, this coming weekend is lawnmower races at Bowles Farms. Goes to support 2 great organizations, 7th District Optimists and 7th District Rescue Squad. And it's a family-friendly, fun event. If you've never seen the lawnmower races, you should definitely go. They bring in people from all across the country. My understanding, they've said in the past, it's the biggest gathering in the country because the racers love to come here. And I think they've even had a few international people, maybe from Canada and stuff. Absolutely fun. Really incredible. It's great time. Come on out to that. You'll enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. Public forum tonight. Hope to see a good turnout. Anyone's welcome to come and speak on any topic you like. And I'd like to end by saying thank you to Mike Reed. He has been the reporter covering us for a couple years now for the Southern Maryland News, formerly known as the Enterprise. He's done a great job, and he's moving on to better opportunities. So thank you, Mike, for all you've done and for being fair and not too hard on us and not printing any of the pictures you have of me sleeping up here. So thank you. Have a great weekend.
Mr. Alderson.
Thank you. Was a great weekend, hot weekend. I was able to get out to a birthday party for one of my community neighbors. Ms. Clara Armstrong turned a very, very youthful 80. When she walked into the event space up at IC Hall, she came into, I don't know the artist, a song called She's a Bad Mamma Jamma. 80 years old, this woman could outdance everybody in the room. It was fantastic. It was great to see so many family members and friends and community members from across the entire spectrum there. And it was just, everybody had a fantastic time. Food was great. She was very happy that, for one reason or another, I have no idea, that I got up and said a few words to her and wished her a very happy birthday. But it was a great time. So, Ms. Armstrong, Ms. Claire, happy 80th birthday. Like Commissioner Colvin said, lawnmower races this weekend. I will be flipping burgers, turning dogs, and generally making sure you all are fed. I was recruited for cooking this year as opposed to my usual job, which is treasurer. I have no idea if there's any kind of undertones to me not being the treasurer, but be that as it may, come on out. Weather sounds like this heat is going to break a little bit, it seems like. I hope so. Like to get 2 good days of racing in, and it is a fantastic, fun event for everybody in the family. Sunday morning, I was at Ridge Volunteer Rescue Squad's all-you-can-eat breakfast to help support that organization down there. My mom is the treasurer for the Rescue Squad Association, so she was very happy to see me, and there was a surprise appearance by our sheriff. He showed up right after Mass at St. Michael's, broke a little bread with him, and good turnout. These small breakfasts, carry-outs and stuff like that that support these rescue organizations and fire departments. Very important to get out there, show your support for them. If you can't volunteer, show your support by hitting them up when they put on these kinds of spreads. Last night I was at work, and the majority of people know that I do work nights up in D.C., and 6:30 rolled around. I popped my earbuds in so I can listen to the Planning Commission talk about the concept plan for the Home Depot to go by the RC Theaters and behind the Royal Farms that's being built in Oakcrest. And I am looking forward to the Home Depot finally happening. It's been in the books and in the rumor mill for, it seems like, forever. But I think maybe the late 90s is probably when it was first spoken of. And to piggyback on what other people have said about, not just Commissioner Hewitt, but what other people have said about building and worrying about traffic and stuff like that. Traffic remains a concern, but there's also the need for competition. And I think that the Home Depot is sorely needed. We were talking this morning. I was talking with Ms. Guzman this morning about where do you go to buy appliances. You know, back in the old days, you could go to the Sears store that was in Wildwood, or you would go to Raley's on Great Mills Road. They had one side that was appliances, and those places went away. And then you end up going to Waldorf or whatever, and now you can go to Bray and Scarf and places like that. But we do need more places to have that selection. And like I said, I'm very excited for that to happen. They put on a very good presentation last night. A lot of questions were answered, and the biggest thing is always going to remain traffic. And no matter what we do, I think traffic will always be an issue with whatever is built. Because my thing is, I cleaned it up a little bit, but if you make something foolproof, then there's always someone out there who's going to say challenge accepted. So you can't control behavior. You can only hope to. You can't control others' behavior. You can just hope to, as far as traffic, try to get them to follow the rules of the road and stuff like that, but it doesn't always work out that way. There will be a public hearing this evening, and I will be listening in again to piggyback on what Commissioner Hewitt said about labor shortages. Right now, we are in a labor shortage in my department that I work in, and we have 4 people that can do my job that are on vacation right now. So we are short-staffed, and so this will be, but I will say this is the last one that I will miss this year, the evening ones, and probably for the rest of my term, because things are changing up with me and that job up there. But just let it be known, I will be listening in and taking my notes seriously, as I usually do, and we will be out for Mako and hope to talk to some people at Maryland Department of Energy and get a little more clarification on what they plan to do with these utility bills and their way of, try to get them to rethink this whole shoving green energy down our throats that, really isn't helping anybody out at this point in time. So with that, I pass that along.
Commissioner Ostrow.
All right. Definitely want to lead off with, it is great news about the Home Depot coming in. That is something that truly is. I talk to a lot of people. It's right in my district. Talk to a lot of people that are very excited about that. There's a lot of amazing growth going on in that whole development there by the movie theater and behind where the new Royal Farms will be. We've got a lot of great new businesses that have moved in there and that are opening up. We have Pain Management Center in there. There's a tremendous amount of contractors who are opening offices in that new development. So if you get the opportunity, I hadn't driven through it in a while, and when I went back there, I did a couple of ribbon cuttings back there just recently, and I was amazed to see how much progress that they've made and how much that is going on. It's really quite amazing what they've done back there, and I think a new Home Depot will be very much needed and utilized within this community, and we certainly need the jobs. I've heard some people tell me that, they're concerned, are we going to be attracting people from outside of St. Mary's County over in Calvert to just come over here and work at the Home Depot? But I really don't see that as going to be the case. I think that is something that a lot of people here in this community will gravitate to and want to be employed there. So really looking forward to that. A lot of great opportunities come with another Home Depot. Again, a great place to go and buy appliances, great place to go and just see some good competition. That's very important. So competition means, lower prices and lower costs for people to be able to go out and find what they need. So really looking forward to that. Can't wait for the opening of that, though we are a ways out from actually seeing those doors open. Back to school, we're coming up on it. I know we're heading towards the end of summer. Back to school is out and about. Very excited that our oldest granddaughter will be attending Town Creek Elementary School in her first year of kindergarten. So very excited for that. We've already taken the morning off. My wife and I were going to go. Grandma and Grandpa are going to go with Mom and Dad and put her on the bus to school. And so this is going to be a wonderful, exciting time. But my reason for mentioning back to school is throughout our county. I know there's at the Walmart and a lot of other locations throughout the county and some of the grocery stores. A lot of offices are doing it. I know several that are, but there's a lot of drop-off locations for people to drop off back to school supplies, and those are distributed out to families that may need a little bit of help and can't afford to buy all that they need for their kids that are going to school. So I would encourage everybody out there, if it fits your budget, if you can do it when you're out at Walmart or wherever you're doing some shopping, buy a couple of boxes of crayons and some number 2 pencils and just go through the back to school supplies. Paper's always in high demand, and if you can, right on your way out, right out of Walmart, you can just drop it in the donation bin right there. It's just a great way to help others in our community that may just need that. And St. Mary's County, I've said it many times, is always a community that supports those who are in need. So this is just a great way to be able to do that, and very convenient. You don't have to take it anywhere else. If you're at Walmart, buy some supplies, drop them in the bin. It's a great thing to be able to do. I also want to say it. Very sorry to see Mike Reed will no longer be here. He has been great. He's been very fair in his reporting, and he's a very good man. But I do wish him luck in his new endeavor. But hopefully you'll find some time to stop back in and visit us at a meeting here or there, even if it's an evening meeting. Good luck to you, Mike, and best wishes. Absolutely. Lawnmower races coming up this weekend. Looking forward to that. Our grandkids, especially my grandson, is finally old enough to really be able to get into that this year. So we're gonna be there, enjoying that on Saturday. It's always a great time, and those are some amazing machines. It's not your average lawnmower running around that track out there. So always a good time. Also hoping that we do have some cooler weather to really be able to enjoy that. So get out and enjoy that if you can. It is when we first moved to the county and I heard about lawnmower races, I was like, "Are you serious? Really? What are these guys doing?" And we went out to them, and we couldn't believe it. It's just such a great time. It's a good time. A lot of people go, and it's a good time to catch up with folks you haven't seen maybe, and it's just a absolute fun time. So I encourage everybody to get out and do that. The Mako conferences are coming up. We're going into a break for a couple of weeks as we gear up for that. Really looking forward to the Mako conference this year. There's always a tremendous amount of information shared. There's a lot of opportunities to get together. You know, we do rural county meetings and with other elected officials, and we get to discuss a lot of topics that are affecting us and learn how the other counties are handling those and addressing those, so we can bring back some of that knowledge here too. So it's a great time of collaboration and sharing of knowledge, and it's a great time to also get educated and catch up on a lot of what is happening in Maryland as far as legislatively and what is coming at us. So really looking forward to that time. We do two conferences, the winter conference and this is the summer conference. So with so much going on politically throughout throughout the state and throughout the country, I believe this is going to be a very, very informative and very good Mako conference this year. Public forum this evening, 6:30. As always, I encourage everybody, come on out and let us know what's on your mind, what you're thinking, what your concerns are. If we don't know about it, we can't fix it if we don't know it's broken. So I encourage everybody, please, please, please come out and let us know what's going on. I think that covers, yep, that's it. That's all I've got. So with that, I'm going to pass it on.
Okay, thank you very much, Commissioners. A shout out again for the lawnmower races, and if you have never seen such a thing, you need to go. The Bowles Farm track and everything is known almost statewide, and plus throughout the country of its surface. I suppose it's a hard clay type surface, so they really like racing on that. But it's extremely interesting to watch, and it's going to be 2 days, Friday and Saturday. Money benefiting, of course, a very worthy cause, our rescue squad in the 7th District and the Optimist Club. So please do come out. You'll be surprised what you see. Also on this weekend, there's the Governor Cup race. Now, many people don't realize it, but it's literally a 24-hour race, mainly from Annapolis is the big portion of it. There's also a southern group that comes up from Virginia. Right now, there's almost 60 different sailboats of various sizes that are participating now. Usually it's close to 100. I don't know how many, that was about a week ago. It's only 60 was registered. Usually it's 100 by that time. I'll be involved in that because between 3:30 in the morning and 7:30 in the morning, believe it or not, that's about the majority of the boats come in to St. Mary's River into St. Mary's City at that time. And I'll be on the Dove identifying the boats and registering them, their time when they cross the finish line, which between a place where they call Priest Point, there's a cross at St. Mary's City, and the Dove will be anchored out on the other side of the river, and we have a committee that will be on there watching these boats come in with our high-powered flashlights and glasses to identify the boats, and so, but it's an exciting race for those racing, I'm sure, but it's pretty interesting that. If the winds are not good, then they may be coming in a lot later. Because we have committees that are taking 4-hour watches starting actually at about 10 p.m. on through about noontime the following day. But they have some activities on the shoreline as they come in. I'm not sure exactly what it all is. I don't participate in that. Usually by the time I get done my shift, I'm ready to go home. But anyway, it's something else going on in our county that people don't really realize. This Governor Cup has been going on for many, many years that come into St. Mary's City and St. Mary's College. Also, I'd like to say that we'll be going to this Mako conference. It's there for numerous reasons. The Maryland Association of County is a group that participates in, you might say, fine-tuning legislation that many don't realize how much they work to hopefully help us out in making sure it's not doing too much damage to the counties, and work with the people, the authors of them, to might say make some corrections. But they also, this particular session brings a lot of courses together to train those who are just starting in government, all kinds of classes about how to manage and run government. And it's very important that you participate in that and learn. And you actually get a certification from the University of Maryland that you've attended certain courses, core courses they call it, and other courses to finalize your acceptance and get a degree to the University of Maryland. And it sort of sets you up for public involvement and public government service. So it's important for all those who are going there, they're doing this, not just going there for the crab feast we have on Friday afternoon. But anyway, and my shout out to Mike Reed. Thank you very much for your fair and balanced all these years. You're attending all of our courses, and I assume you're going to attend tonight, right? Yep. Good. So we'll see you tonight. So that being said, I make sure those who are interested, we have a public forum tonight at 6:30. It's open to the public, to anything you want to talk about. We don't really have, it's not like a one-on-one conversation between the commissioners and the people. It's just that you can come up and express your view on certain items, and our directors, many of them will be here tonight, and the information that you give us will be passed on to them if they're not here for hopefully an answer to you. So it's important that we have your information as far as name, address, as you participate. Be nice to have a copy of your performance here at the public to let us know what you're here for. With that being said,
Mr. Guy, can I just add?
Yes, go ahead.
One quick thing. I did forget to mention that, and Commissioner Guy, you kind of reminded me, tonight's public forum is an opportunity to come and speak to the commissioners and tell us what's on your mind. But we don't usually respond because time constraints, and we don't want to get into hours and hours and hours. But this coming August 9th at Bay District Volunteer Fire, I will be having another one of my town hall style meetings. So if you want to come talk to a commissioner and get a direct answer about why I've made the decisions I've made, what's going on in the county, please come on out for that. It's 1 to 3 at Bay District Volunteer Fire.
okay, good. Okay, with that being said, meeting over.